Jesus was speaking here in the 8th chapter of Mark. He began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer many things. Verse 31, Mark 8:31. He taught them that the Son of Man must suffer many things. You know, many times we wonder why we suffer. And he told them, he informed them that he was going to suffer many things. And they could hardly grasp the fact that the Son of God, the divine, great, mighty Christ, the Master, would have to go through suffering. But all that follow God are experiencing suffering. The suffering of the soul, suffering of the mind, suffering of the body. And we don't bring this on. We only receive it as we follow in inner denial. And the flesh wants to deter it, avoid it, avert it. But suffering is refining, and suffering brings hope to the light, to know of compassion. Because until you have suffered, you will lack in compassion. You have compassion in fragment, or in part, or in somewhat. But in suffering, as you follow, he will so refine us that the power of his word of love and the Holy Ghost, the precious blood, he will teach us of compassion. Being compassionate. When you're in a hospital, you go in, if you suffered, if you go in, you don't talk the way I'm talking. That is, if you suffer. Whenever you suffer, you think about what you should do to lessen their distress. Suffering teaches us about being compassionate. And love is there. Where there is love, then there is suffering. And he taught them and he told them that the Son of Man must suffer something, a little. He said many things. Now, if I were to try to enumerate, which I cannot, he said he must suffer many things. Here was the divine Son of God, perfect in every point, like we are yet without sin. He was the only one since Adam that's without sin. Only one. Because of the fall. And that was because of disobedience. And he said the Son of Man is going to suffer many things. So when we follow him, you see, most people don't want to suffer. They want blessings. They want the power. They want the gifts. But if we follow him, and there's only one way to follow, by prayer, and trusting, and obeying, and faith, we will suffer some things. But he said he would suffer many things. Would it be interesting, or a challenge, or stirring to think of the various areas where Jesus suffered besides the cross, before the cross, or before Gethsemane, and with it. Said he was going to suffer many things, he said. And he said also, besides suffering these many things, and many is quite a number, isn't it? Plural. He said he was going to be rejected of the elders, of the chief priests, of the scribes, and be killed, And he said, after 3 days, he said, I'll rise again. See, he told them all this. But there wasn't anyone that heard him. There wasn't anyone that heard that he was going to be slain and rise again. There wasn't anyone that heard that. Do you ever think about how little we heard here, and how little they heard? And we're like they are, only maybe weaker. I am. And he had many things to suffer. And besides all these many things to suffer, he's going to be rejected by the spiritual leaders. Now, what kind of an atmosphere is that? What kind of an experience is that? To be rejected by the leaders, by people that knew the Pentateuch and the Psalms and the major and the minor prophets, know all about it, or much about it, and yet they were going to put him through an ordeal that would mean his life on a cross. He said, I'm going to be killed there by these religious people, and I'm going to come forth from the dead. And they didn't hear it. He spake this thing openly. Verse 32. And when he said that, Peter took him. Now, when you take somebody, if you take somebody, what do? Peter took him and began to rebuke Jesus. Well, what kind of courage does that take? Or require? And Peter rebuked Jesus because he didn't believe that he was going to have to go through all these things. Just like the rest of us, we wouldn't know unless by God's grace would we know. And he rebuked Jesus, and when he turned about, then you see, after Peter had rebuked Jesus, when he had turned about and looked on his disciples, why, he had something to say to Peter. Get thee behind me, Satan, for thou savorest not the things that be of God, but the things that be of men. And when he had called the people unto him, with his disciples, that is, the multitude that were with him, however great or small it was, he called all the people together, and his disciples were there. And he said to all of them with his disciples, he said, I have some information for you. I have something important. I have something that is urgent. It's urgent. Because what he's going to say is the very basic foundation of Christianity. And the living Christianity. It's the very basic factor, and it's an absolute. We've tried to detour this for hundreds of years. We have averted it, avoided it. The human heart will not submit to it. It will try to get out of it. And he said to all his disciples, to all the people, he said, whosoever will come after me, whoever it is that has the courage to come after me, let that person deny himself. As many times as I preached this the last year, that operates in my heart again. I was preaching the other day to Rymer, and he said, it'd be good to hear that tomorrow or the next day, and keep preaching. Because if we don't, we'll forget. We will not remember the significance and the urgency of inner denial. He said, let him deny himself. Now, everyone, you see, we want Christianity. We want the victory. We want the blessings. We want the gifts. We want the power. But self doesn't want to pay the price to be denied.